friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well, and I hope you enjoyed my last video, which was the story of the birth of my daughter Isla. Today I want to talk about how I healed my perineal tear naturally. I know this is a controversial subject. Everything that I share today, this is not medical advice. I hate having to put out the statement, but in today's day and age, I feel like it's necessary. This is simply my experience, what I've learned, and what I've done on myself that has worked well for me. So with my first pregnancy and birth, I tore after that birth. I had what the midwives called a shallow second-degree tear, and I did not know at the time that tears can be healed naturally, especially first and second-degree tear. I also didn't know of the pros and cons of healing naturally versus being sutured, so I thought my only option was being sutured, so obviously I agreed to that. And I had very painful healing. I had pain down there for a very long time, pain with urination, any kind of excretion, pain with intercourse, it was very painful. It was painful to sit, it was painful to lay. I remember it was very itchy for some time. It was just lots of discomfort. So the second time around, I somehow stumbled upon the information that some tears can be healed naturally, and I decided that if it makes sense for me if I tear, and depending on the severity of my tear, I am going to opt for healing my tear naturally, and I did, and it worked really well. So with this birth, my last birth, I had a third-degree tear from what I saw and from what others have said. So to back it up a little bit, I gave birth and I didn't check for tearing right away because it wasn't on my mind as the first thing. Also, I felt really good down there. So good that I didn't check until day 4, which I guess I could say I don't recommend. I think if you're going to heal your tear naturally, it's best if you see how severe your tear is immediately or as soon as possible, so you can be proactive about keeping your legs closed and doing certain things that we'll talk about in this video. Anyway, I didn't do that. I was on cloud 9 after my home birth. Like I said in my previous video, I had no pain with urination or any bowel movements. Literally no pain at all. No stinging, no burning, no pain. So I was like, there's no way that I tore. No way. Like, I'm fine. So I wasn't even being that proactive in the first 4 days of like keeping my legs closed or anything. Like, I would sit crisscrossed when I would change my baby's diaper on the bed, and it wasn't until somebody asked me, a friend of mine, if I tore, and this was day 4, and I went to the bathroom and looked with a mirror, and I was shocked to find a third-degree tear. I also took some pictures and sent to some friends of mine who are experts on this topic, and they also confirmed that from the looks of my pictures, it looks like a third-degree tear. Like I said, I was shocked, and immediately I became proactive on healing that tear. From what I knew, I didn't think it would make sense to go to the hospital to get sutured, because in most cases, our body is designed to heal and the skin starts healing immediately. And so often OBs they can't stitch a tear that's already started to heal. One, for the risk of an infection, and second of all, the skin has already started to heal, and so it heals separated. If they suture your skin, it's not going to come together because the skin is already healed. Many OBs will not stitch you because of the risk of infection of it having been so long. And usually at this point, it requires a reconstructive surgery. And I'm like, there's no way I'm doing a reconstructive surgery right now while my priority is breastfeeding my baby and bonding with my baby. So I decided to be very proactive. It didn't look like the edges of the skin of my torn perineum, it didn't look like it had healed. So to me, it looked like there was still time for the skin to come together, because at this point I had no perineum at all, 0 perineum. It went right up to my anus. Anyway, so I messaged my friend who is an herbalist. I messaged her and I asked her if she had any herbs on hand that she can ship out to me for herbal sitz baths in my bathtub, and she had some on hand, so she shipped out what she had. I had lavender and red raspberry leaf and rose petals on hand. So she shipped out, oh wait, no, I didn't have rose. I had lavender and red raspberry leaf on hand. So she shipped out comfrey, calendula, and rose petals out to me, and they arrived at when I was 1 week postpartum, so 3 days later. I immediately started doing herbal sitz baths. I was doing these baths 1 to 2 times a day, these shallow herbal baths 1 to 2 times a day. And I would also air dry after these baths so that oxygen could move and promote healing. And I was very mindful of keeping my legs closed and resting and laying. The first week my husband was home. The second week he went to work. So my sister flew in that second week and she was with me that second week. The third week my husband stayed home again. And the fourth week my friend flew in. I had support throughout that entire month, which I think is the most important factor when it comes to deciding what you're going to do about your tear. Because if you're healing your tear naturally, you need to be in bed, resting, healing, keeping your legs together, not putting any pressure or strain on your pelvic floor, on your perineum. So it was possible for me because I had support to do this. And I was in bed for 3 weeks. I was not walking other than to go to the bathroom and to get into my bath. Food was brought to me, and I had help with diaper changes. Like, I wasn't doing anything. I was just laying in bed and resting, soaking up my baby, and just focusing on just not doing anything, which, you know, it can be hard to not do anything for so long. But I truly enjoyed having those 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. On that 4th week, I was slowly getting up and going outside and getting more on my feet. But at that 4-week mark, 1 month postpartum, I checked my tear. I was scared to check because I didn't check for progress throughout because I was nervous and scared, and I was also going through a lot of emotional healing surrounding this topic of having change down there, because nobody talks about it, and I think it can be really hard to accept that things are different down there. For one, especially since you've had things down there a certain way your entire life. And 2, it's very popular in our culture to bounce back and to give birth, to get pregnant, to give birth, to raise children, and remain in this maiden body, which is not what happens, because when we get pregnant and we birth and raise children, we are in our mother body, and there's so many changes that happen in our body, whether it's breast changes or genital changes, hip changes, our body structure changes, just so many changes happen. externally, internally, and this is not really glorified in our society. And so this entire month I was just really going through sitting with these feelings of grief and grieving my maiden body and accepting my mother body. And so I didn't want to look down there that entire month. But my friend asked me at 1 month how things were going down there. And so I was like, I shouldn't avoid it any longer. I need to look. And I looked at 1 month postpartum and I healed very nicely down there. I have a perineum again. I mean, things don't look like they did before I gave birth to this baby, but things function well. I don't have any problems with any kind of function that involve any of my organs down there, and I don't have any pain down there, and I have a perineum. It was a huge process of trusting my body and trusting the truths about our bodies, that our bodies were created by a wise creator who designed our bodies to heal. And I had to believe it for myself that my body could heal. It was the hardest part. I admit to not having faith in that throughout this month process, but after that, it just confirmed these truths that I know even more, that our bodies are wisely designed and our bodies are designed to heal, and they're designed to also change. And all of this is beautiful, and there's parts that we grieve, and it's okay and it's good to grieve. And at the same time, we just become beautiful in a totally different way. It's all beautiful. I'm always reminded of, I love the process of how a caterpillar creates a chrysalis and then comes out of this chrysalis as a butterfly. This is always what I picture as a maiden transformation to a mother. You know, a caterpillar is beautiful in its own way, and the process is beautiful, and then the butterfly is so beautiful. And so this entire process is beautiful, and there's beauty in every phase. And anyway, I can talk about this for a long time, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about how I healed my tear. So let's get into that. So first and second degree tears usually have no problem with healing naturally. Third and fourth degree tears, depending on the severity, usually require suturing to prevent future pelvic floor issues and issues with intercourse, and to prevent any kind of dysfunction with any organs down there, and to prevent any kind of pain. There are 4 degrees of tears, and now this is very basic. I'm just going to go through this really quick to kind of give you a picture. First degree tear is a surface tear to the perineal skin. Second degree tear is a tear to the perineal skin and the surrounding muscles. Third degree tear is a tear to the perineal skin and the muscles and into the sphincter, the anal sphincter. There are also 3 subcategories of that third degree tear. A is less than 50% of the anal sphincter is torn. B is more than 50% of the anal sphincter is torn. And C is external and internal anal sphincters are torn. And a 4th degree tear is all of the above, and the tear involves the rectum and the anus. So use discretion and seek wise counsel if you are unsure of the severity of your tear and the best way to heal it. So I had a 3rd degree tear, A, with less than 50% of the anal sphincter torn. How can we decrease the likelihood of tearing? The best way to decrease the likelihood of tearing is birthing in an undisturbed environment, which I will get to in my future videos. But if you want to learn more about that right now, you can go to my Instagram to check those out, because I have a bunch of videos on physiological birth. But birthing in an undisturbed environment, having the right birth attendants, having the right atmosphere, having worked through any trauma prior to labor, and trusting the physiological process and your body's capability to birth. All of these things are most important when it comes to not having a tense pelvic floor, not having any tense muscles down there, which allows our body to open easily and soften and prevent tearing from happening. But also, tearing is part of the physiological process and not something to fear. So if you did tear, just know that you didn't fail, and our body was wisely designed. Everything down there was wisely designed to be able to heal quickly and easily. Our body was also wisely designed to birth. So our body was designed to tear if there is a need to tear for your baby to be born, and it was designed to heal. I had a wonderful last birth experience and I tore, so it happens, and I healed. So let's talk about herbal soak. And like I said, I used comfrey, calendula, rose, lavender, red raspberry leaf. Other herbs that are also really great for healing are plantain leaf, chamomile, yarrow, uva ursi or bearberry, and witch hazel leaf. I have all the benefits of these herbs posted in a blog post that I'm going to link down below because it's very long. It's going to take a lot of time if I talk about every single herb, but each one of these herbs has incredible properties when it comes to healing. Very specific properties, so if you are interested in learning more and choosing certain herbs, then head to my blog post and read on the herbs. I also have linked in that post where I buy my herbs from, so check that out. But all of these herbs are, some of them are soothing, some of them promote blood circulation, some of them are anti-inflammatory, some of them are antimicrobial, antibacterial, some of them help grow new tissue. It's just fascinating, all these herbs, all these plants that God gave us that we can use for healing the body. I mixed all my herbs together and I put them in a container. Then I would make a tea with all of these herbs or an infusion. I would steep 1 cup of dried herbs in 1 quart of hot water, which is 4 cups of hot water, for at least 30 minutes. But sometimes I would let it steep for longer than that, and as it would cool, I would move it to the fridge overnight, however long, and for it to be even a stronger concentration. Then when your tea is ready, you're going to fill a clean tub, and of course, my husband was doing this for me until I felt like I could do this myself. And you're going to fill the tub with enough water to cover your genitals. The water temperature should be warm. And then pour the tea with the herbs strained out so they can be poured through a strainer straight into the bathtub. I also would add half a cup of salt just for the minerals and for the healing properties of salt. I used red mint real salt because it's very high in minerals, but you can also use Epsom salts for this. And then you stir the bath water so that everything incorporates into the water and is distributed evenly. And then you sit in the tub for about 15 to 20 minutes. And what I would do is when I would get out of the tub, I would pat myself dry, and then I would lay a towel on the bed, and I would lay on the bed on the towel and allow myself to air dry so that oxygen flows and dries everything and promotes healing and prevents any kind of bacterial growth. This can be repeated 2 to 3 times a day, depending on your strength, your energy levels, your pain levels, how much herbs you have on hand. All of this taken in consideration with how often. I found for me 1 to 2 times a day was the sweet spot. And again, if it's possible, try to have somebody do this entire process for you so you can just focus on resting and not putting any pressure or strain down there, at least in the first week or 2. Oh, I also want to add that you can also put breast milk in the sitz bath. I didn't think of this, I totally could have. I didn't think of it, but I read that you could use breast milk because breast milk has healing properties, it has stem cells. It's just, we all know the breast milk is literally liquid gold. Like I said, I'm going to link everything below. My blog post, which covers all of this and in more detail. And as always, also do your own research. Make sure that everything that you do, you take full responsibility for. Make sure that everything you do sits right with you, with your intuition. Yeah, I hope this was helpful for you. If you healed your perineal tear naturally before, please let me know in the comments what was your experience like. If you've had sutures and you've healed naturally before, both experiences, let me know what the differences were in your experiences and what you would do again if you happen to give birth and tear again. I'm just so curious because this topic is not talked about a lot, and I feel like a lot more women can benefit from knowing this information. Also, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will do my best to respond to them as quickly as possible and as thoroughly as possible. And thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys again next week.